You rise up in the morning beneath the stars so bright. Pull your hat down, make sure your cinch is tight. Horses kinda snuffy, cold chill up your spine. You'll get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight.
Howdy there, I'm Matt McKinley and we're burning daylight.
In the saddle till the job's done right.
Welcome to Burnin' Daylight, the only podcast for the working cowboy. Well, howdy there, daylight burners. Hope you all had a good weekend. Here live on a Sunday afternoon with Mr. John Odea. We had a little trouble getting him on video, but we got him on the phone. Coming to you from western Nebraska. Is that correct?
Yeah, southwest corner.
Okay.
Here at Indianola.
Okay, so you're not too far from like McCook in.
Yeah, I'm 10 miles east of McCook. I'm 15 miles off there, 20 miles off the Kansas border where I'm sitting right now, and about 70 miles off the Colorado border.
Okay. So. How's the moisture situation up that way?
Terrible.
Really? It's
yeah, we're in extreme drought. We've been in either extreme or exceptional drought for the last 14 months, and we had like Thursday, Friday, they had us in a 80 to 90% chance of an inch of rain for Tuesday, and they backed it off to a 30% chance of showers.
Oh, it's been a wet winter here, so I mean it's hard to complain. But I know my dad's down in southeast Colorado, down in the very corner, and it's just miserable dry there. I got some listeners and buddies in both of the panhandles, Texas and Oklahoma, and it's rough.
Yeah.
We had record-breaking snow. I'm out in western Nevada, and we had we went over the hill to California here the other day, and it was so much. I've never seen so much snow in my life up there on top. But we'd been really dry up till this winter, so it was a long time coming. But I hope some other folks get some moisture.
Yeah. So,
well, I wanted to talk to you. I've been kind of following your beef business. You call it beef bootlegging, and you got a good sense of humor, and I really enjoy watching your boys branch out and do things. I mean, it's never met you in person, but it's like you're. I always like seeing what you're posting on Facebook. And there's not a ton of people that I really enjoy following, but you guys have just been hustling. And when I had you on, here, it's been a couple of years ago now. You were just getting ready to kind of expand your boxed beef. And now you guys are really trucking along with that, aren't you?
Oh yeah, we're doing about 200 beef a year right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really, really great. And like, how far out are you on customers? Is there a wait list or anything?
Oh yeah, it's not near what it was. At one time we were carrying over 100 customers on the big board on the waiting list, and we've got them closer to the knife now. I think I've got 80 some customers on the list, but they'll all get taken care of for the most part. Other than 80 some, there'll be 70 of them. A lot of them are booking them up in advance, but then we have customers that book 6 to 8 months to a year out. I mean, I delivered a beef yesterday, and the people said put us down for the same week a year from now, so that's what we did. But you're gonna hear some bawling and everything. The feed truck just pulled in, and Jake's feeding a bunch of pears here at the headquarters. So I'm sitting out on the porch, so you'll be hearing the feed truck rattling, hearing some cows bawling in the background. So
that's all right. I loved it. Some of my very first episodes were all on horseback while I was riding pins. So longtime listeners will be used to it. I've I've just been really kind of blown away with how you guys you're definitely have a lot of different thoughts than kind of what your industry standard is. I mean, I guess there's not so much there's not many like industry standards because the industry is so diverse depending on the area, but you're just kind of you're like the wild card in the bunch, and it seems like you're always just finding a way to I guess make shit work, you know.
Yeah, well, and we laugh about everybody in our place. We laugh about being kind of men without a country. I mean, we wear bib overalls and run cows. We don't have a horse on the place. We don't. We raise hay instead of raising grain, and I mean, we kind of hate everybody, I guess you could say. I mean, we just go to battle, and you know, it's kind of fun because I'll have people that sell 6 beef a year that haven't been following me for very long, and they'll want to get on the social media and coach me up, you know. And
oh yeah.
And there's always the guy that's got 40 cows and wants to coach up, you know, and I mean, it's you kind of got to have a chip on your shoulder, I guess, to survive and make this deal work, because there's no shortage of authorities that are out there that'll, you know, they don't do you any good, but they destroy your confidence in yourself if you let them, you know.
Yeah, so. There's just a lot of noise on social media, and I don't know, like there's just I don't know, there's a lot of noise.
Well, yeah, I mean, and a lot of times there's no bigger doubters than your neighbors, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I you know, you kind of got to have balls enough to call some people on the carpet, you know, once in a while. We've got a handful of really good longtime friends and neighbors and landlords that we work with, and everybody else can kind of go hang in their ass for the most part. I mean, we know we know who loves us and who don't, and so we plan accordingly. But yeah, it's kind of a wild ride around here at times. I mean, between like this afternoon, we had a little breaking action, and so Jake was rehabbing an apartment building, and I mean, there's, you know, kind of stuff like that going on. We've got honestly a pretty high percentage of our business, our revenue, comes from hobby people and blue collar people, you know. And we kind of it's kind of funny because for the most part, they're kind of sick of farmers and ranchers shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, people don't realize the guys that are true producers, the guys that are working and feeding their families and doing their thing, man, they are loved. They are really, really loved by the public.
Mm-hmm.
But the big time operators, the guys that are, you know, doing the TikTok videos and their big shiny combines and big tractors and bragging about having $1 million worth of equipment and shit like that, those people are despised. You know, the guys that are showing their great big deals, you know, that kind of think they're being hero worship. There's a lot of people that despise them. You know,
yeah.
They work for, most of my customers work for rich people all day.
Yeah.
They treat them like shit. And so are they going to go give more money to those same assholes at the end of the day?
Mm-hmm.
Or are they going to spend their money with a guy? I mean, and I tell people, hell, I ain't doing this for fun. I mean, we've got to make a living at it or we're done or we're going to quit, plain and simple. And I mean, we run welders and we have worked in the oil fields, all of us, and done mean, nasty shit and rode pens, and we still put up little square bales of hay and sell to hobby farmers and, and goat farmers and people, that resonates with people,
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what we're about, So.
Well, my dad's kind of facing this kind of deal too, where he's really involved with this water fight with all these, and it's particularly with the big operator type farmers, and it seems to be that their mentality is just like, well, we got to get the water or somebody else will get it, and like nobody is thinking like, well, what happens when the water is just sucked dry? at some point, when they're drilling 400 feet to hit water nowadays, when you used to be able to drill 60, it's I mean it and then they keep just plowing up too, and you're just like that. Do you not remember the old days when that shit turned into the Dust Bowl? Seems like we're headed back that direction,
That country, we're in good shape here in Nebraska. We're kind of regulated on everything pretty hard. But, there won't be in another 25 years, there might not be any animal agriculture down there in the Texas Panhandle, Oklahoma Panhandle, and Southwest Kansas.
Yeah. Yeah, you throw
Southeast
Colorado in there too, and it's...
Yeah, Southeast Colorado, they are annihilating that water table so fast. I mean, there's everybody in Nebraska that's got a place where they can build a pen is building a pen in big feed yards, expanding, building new yards. And there's feed yards sitting abandoned in Southwest Kansas.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's grazing land. It always has been. And like as soon as, I mean, I know they wanted to settle it, but you kind of got to face the music at some point that like a lot of that place just wasn't meant to be settled. It was meant to be grazed.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
And I mean, it's a shame, but like they keep holding on. And then, I mean, when you're trying to, I mean, you're just, like you said, just sucking that water table dry. And the hell of it is they get around all these rules because they get all the like the big operators and the sprinkler dealers and whatnot on the water boards, and they just kind of just like rubber stamp all the new well permits, and that nobody ever tests to see if there's unallocated water.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's it seems like maybe there's some progress being made, but boy, yeah, my dad's not like it. People love him or they hate him because there's a lot of people that are not a big fan of him because if they have to stop pumping water, the size of their operation shrinks pretty dramatically.
Yeah. Well, and that's what we've seen a lot of with the water fights we've had with Kansas and everything. We've seen a lot of really good land idle. It was mismanaged up here. They put in programs. We're in an area where there's really, really good ground.
Mm-hmm.
And, we can raise pretty good dryland crops 7 years out of 10 here.
Yeah.
And they put in some programs that totally eliminated production on some of these farms instead of just buying out the water rights for a set number of years, let the water table catch up and do some things like that. And having guys farm a dry land or graze it, they said, "Oh no, we're gonna have you plant it to grass and let it grow up to habitat, and we're not gonna let nothing in there." And so, I mean, it turned into fizzle patches, and they don't do anything for the local economy.
Yeah,
there's no. I mean, a landowner getting $150 or $200 an acre is great for the landowner. But that doesn't do anything for all the sporting businesses that used to rely on that ground.
Yeah.
It doesn't generate any wages. It doesn't generate anything. Doesn't. And so it's a it's a piss poor cure for a flawed system, is what they did.
Well, and we saw that with the CRP stuff around us is like, yeah, like you said, it just sits idle. There's plots of grounds that my entire life it's just always been in CRP, and every now and then they'll let you emergency graze it, but when they don't, it's a tinderbox. When you get a fire like that CRP is where it always jumps the highway or something, and
Yeah,
just
exactly.
so much fuel there, and yeah, they said it's unproductive. Nothing but whatever the local wildlife is hangs out in there, and a lot of times not even that because there's no water established.
Yeah, and it's too dense. It gets too dense in some of them deals to where the birds can't even get through it.
Yep. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's like any government program, good intentions, and then but like unintended consequences later on down the line, and it never works out like it ought to. It seems like, but
right.
yeah, I wouldn't. What's your thoughts on with the guys that don't feed out their beef and market their finished product like you guys do? I know you guys probably take quite a few to the sales still or whatnot or market them on the hoof, but it's kind of no real secret that the big four they control the market, but capitalism finds a way somehow. And I'm wondering, like, there's guys like you, and it seems to be like it. If you look back through history, like where this plant in North Platte, where it started out as producer owned, and then all of a sudden Walmart's involved, and then all of a sudden it's starting to look like it's another offshoot of one of the big four, and it's either a competitor to them but it seems like it's gonna head down that same road.
Yeah. What we do, and this is going to sound really arrogant, but it's a fact. What we do with marketing our own beef, there's damn few people in the cow-calf business that have the brains or the desire to do it or the ambition.
Mm.
It's not easy, and I've paid a lot of tuition to learn to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had probably a dozen guys that have started and quit already on this in the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
There's guys out there that sell a few beef and they call me about pricing. How should they price their beef? And that pisses me off to no end. There's a lot of people that are selling butcher beef that have no idea how many actual pounds of beef a carcass yields.
Yeah.
There's people that are selling beef that have no idea how to finish one for a butcher beef.
Mm-hmm.
They either get them too fat, or they don't get them fat enough, or they don't feed them enough days.
Mm.
There's a lot more to it, but there's 1,000 things that go into it, and most of these guys that try it don't have the knowledge, haven't done the shitty work where you gain the knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the only guy I know of that sells butcher beef that pulls calves and has worked the boning table.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
and does catering.
It's
you've got to have put yourself in every segment of the deal, and then made mental notes of what it takes to do it, to change things accordingly.
Well,
and that's
when you look at these big outfits too, like the big companies. They didn't get there by accident either. Like most you look at like the old days, Swift and Armour and Morris, they all were either cattle buyers or butchers to start out with. And
yeah.
And it doesn't happen by accident. They made it a lot easier for themselves by getting in the buying off politicians and whatnot. But there's 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 a lot of different ways to get around it, but it's not gonna entail of bitching about prices and then doing the exact same thing that you always do to market your cattle.
Right. And I mean, and I've given up on a lot of groups because I used to get chastised. I'm a firm believer that every calf should be sold weaned and preconditioned.
Yeah.
Everybody pisses their pants over, boy, chasing this carcass trade or doing this or doing that. And there is more money cost the feeding segment because cattle are misrepresented or are not. If cattle were weaned and represented correctly leaving the ranch, for one thing, people would have a lot more respect on the ranching side of it for what it takes to wean a set of calves and get them straightened out. And they'd realize their cattle aren't as bulletproof leaving the ranch as what they think.
Yeah.
And it would increase the margins for these cattle feeding entities and make them compete more for the cattle. Yeah. And you could develop some relationships. And a lot of people, everybody says, oh, they don't pay any more for a weaned calf than what they do for a non-weaned calf. Well, that's total bullshit. They might not, the same 5-weight calf might bring the same money at the sale barn if he's weaned or he's unweaned. But the unweaned 5-weight calf has shrunk 8 or 9% that day.
Yeah.
And the weaned calf has shrunk too.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of those things that they don't, the average guy doesn't see, doesn't realize, but that's why you might, you know, the weight condition factors and things like that change by the hour.
Well, and you're so right on the, like, it's a whole lot of a difference if you know that they're coming in unweaned, they're coming in balling. That's you know, you plan accordingly, but when they're marketed as weaned cattle and they come in balling and pacing, I mean, it takes a lot of extra work to get them to settle down and go to the bunk and and you know, and then the intake is just nothing for the first like week.
Yeah, and we won't, for our heifer program, for our bred heifer program, we will not buy an unweaned heifer calf.
Yeah.
I'm going to take that back. We've got one ranch that their cattle are nearly bulletproof, that we bought them weaned and bought them unweaned both. And their management is so good that we'll continue to buy those calves, those heifers.
Oh, okay.
Regardless. But there's plenty of these clowns around that, like I say, they think their cattle are a hell of a lot better than what they actually are.
Yeah.
And that's a problem.
Yeah. It's one thing, like we had a local guy here. He always feeds like a couple of butcher beef out with us. We don't finish a lot of cattle here, but mostly background. But he typically will send his weaned calves in, and he saw the difference when they came in. Like one year they were done properly weaned, you know, vaccinated, sat for 2 weeks before they they came in, and they, I mean, just performed like a dream. And then and I forget exactly how he put it to me, but they ended up giving them a shot, sticking them on a truck, and then they were weaned, but they fell apart. And we didn't lose many, but man, we played hell trying to get him to eat, and he kind of learned his lesson though. He's like, man, it makes a big difference when they're settled and they're, you know, they're already over the sweats and everything from from those vaccines. It makes a big difference of getting them started on feed and just like getting a good foundation on them to finish out.
Yeah. Well, and to me, that all needs to take place at the home ranch.
Yeah.
You know, and like I say, everybody will have a million excuses, but the biggest excuse is they don't want to do no chores. You know,
Yeah.
it's, oh, well, we don't have feed. We can't. Well, you don't need feed. All you need is a pasture and cake.
Yeah.
You know, a pasture and a good fence, and you can cross the fence between your kids. You can do a lot of things.
Yeah.
But you know, the fact remains, most people don't want to do no chores. Hell, I've got ranchers that have got 800 and 900 head of cows.
Yeah.
That they'll send me half a dozen beef a year to finish for them.
Huh.
Because they don't want to have to deal with. They don't want to have to deal with doing chores. They don't want to have to deal with making a trip to the locker with their beef.
Yeah.
And so I take their beef along and take them to the locker, and it pays me about the same as if I was selling them a beef. So, I mean, and I mean that, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of those deals, like I said, to make me shake my head, and I've lost a lot of faith in a lot of you know, I look at things a lot different because I've been on the other side of agriculture, and, you know, what we think is working hard really isn't compared to what a lot of people do in this country. I mean, there's a lot of people busting their ass at shitty jobs, you know?
Oh yeah.
You know, there's plenty of guys that are out there in the weather doing things, and, you know,
yeah,
I guarantee you, I've never had a blizzard in the winter time where I wish that I was back in the oil field on that same day.
Yeah.
And I've never had a day in the hay field in the summertime that I wished I was back on a pulling unit tripping rods.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, there's plenty of, you know, we kind of got to let Paul Harvey die with the God made a farmer deal, and kind of realize, yeah, you know, it's a tough old way of life at times, but there's a lot of tough old ways of life.
There's a lot tougher. It kind of amazes me, like, you know, you'll get guys like really up in arms over the immigration stuff, and I think justifiably so, but they'll like you know, where I was at in Kansas before I moved out here, there's a lot of huge dairies, and I tell you what, they'll bitch about stuff being in Spanish and all these little, you know, and just, you know, kind of general, just like, there's a lot of, just, you know, they kind of live in the Mexican folks live in the crappier part of town, whatever, and they'll bitch, but I don't see any of the white boys going to apply out at the dairy to milk, you know?
Right.
And,
right. Exactly.
I mean, they ain't taking our jobs. They're taking the jobs that we don't want.
Yeah. Jobs we ain't tough enough to do. Jobs our grandfathers did, but we're too much a bunch of pussies to do.
Right. And also we've allowed the concentration into these big giant conglomerates that they don't pay you any because they don't have to. You know, they know they can import a bunch of Mexicans, and and they can pay them a lot cheaper than they can pay us. And
yeah.
And it's,
but at the same time, I think people will be shocked what them guys are making.
I think so too. Yeah, and also a lot of it.
I mean,
it's just shitty work.
There's a lot of guys that work them big packing houses that are making $55,000-$60,000 a year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know where you never see a Mexican working? Convenience store.
Yep.
Because they don't pay shit.
Yep. Yeah, that's true.
That Mexican, he don't give a damn what the work is. He wants paid for it.
Yep.
He'll work a shitty job, and he'll be there every day to do it.
Yep.
If he's gonna make money.
Right. Well, and that's kind of like when you look back at like when Chicago blew up in the, you know, after the Civil War. I mean, all just waves and waves and waves of immigrant, just poor as dirt immigrants, and they went to the shittiest jobs on earth, but it paid, and it was.
Yep.
I don't know. It's there is something to be said. Like people just don't do shitty jobs anymore. They don't have to, and I think that may change. I don't know, but
yeah,
it's pretty life we live. Even if agriculture is kind of a tough go at times, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, biggest problem with agriculture, we got too many guys in the son business.
Yeah.
You know, they were a rich man's son or rich man's grandson, and that's all they've had to be successful.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not begrudging them. I'm glad somebody made the sacrifice, made the game work, you know, and they got their opportunity, but let's be honest about it. They weren't. I mean, more than once I've had one of them guys who was in the sun business complaining about how tough she was to make a living. And this was years ago when I was in the oil field, and I said, well, I can pick you up in the morning.
Yeah.
And at that time, minimum wage was $7. And I said, I'll pick you up in the morning. The job pays $14 an hour.
Yeah.
Well, I ain't that hungry. No, you're not. Cause you know, Grandpa's going to take care of you.
Yep.
You can piss him all you want to, but you know, Grandpa's going to take care of you at the end of the day. So,
yeah.
And so that's just the way it is, you know? And I laugh about it because people talk about, boy, your son sure have a good work ethic. Hell, they never had an opportunity to know anything else.
Yeah.
You know, hell, you don't get tough on the couch, and hell, we was always broke, so they had to go out and do shit, you know?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, that was kind of that's how I got my work ethic. It's not because I wanted to be a good worker. It's just I didn't have a damn choice.
Yeah. So
I didn't want to be the guy that was up up early and work till the sun was down. Not exactly what I wanted, but I didn't have a choice.
Yeah. That's what I always said, building fence and stacking hay, and a lot of them jobs, you know, if you get to where you're really good at it,
mm-hmm.
you've had to do too damn much of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I saw a video on Instagram today. There was he was an older guy, probably 60s or 70s, and he was ranting about the whole transgender thing. And his rant, I got to say, was pretty spot on. I didn't disagree with it, but he was in a pair of shotgun chaps, shirtless, with a pitchfork and throwing loose hay onto this flatbed trailer. And I was like, anybody that's had to pitch hay for any length of time knows the first thing that always stays on is your shirt. Like you can have short sleeves, but you got to have a shirt on, or you're going to beat red after about 5 minutes. And I was like, what the hell is this guy doing? I was like, it's just a show.
We hand stack about 10,000 little square bales a year.
Yeah.
Stack them on trailers and then stack them in barns or deliver them, you know. And we get some high school kids and some young kids. We get a lot of kids one time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and hell, I'm old and fat and out of shape, and them kids will be trying to throw bales on and everything. And Jake always giggles because on them big trailers, he'll save the last row for me.
Yeah.
And I said, I can't sit in there and keep up with Jake or one of our better guys for a whole trailer, but I can throw them last 30 on that top row.
Yeah.
Easier than anybody else can, you know, because I've done too damn much of it.
Yeah.
I know, you know, I know where you got to grab and how you got to throw them, and you know.
Yeah, it's a lot of technique, but it doesn't hurt if you're a big burly fella too.
Yeah. Yeah. My old man, my dad was about the same build as Jake, about 6 foot and 180 pounds in his prime. And he had kids working for him different times stacking. And of course he could throw bales all day long
mm-hmm.
into a straight truck, with 3.5 or 4 foot sides on it.
Okay.
That was the way that they would throw bales into straight trucks a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
And now you'd have to have somebody in the truck stacking, and you have a guy here going above the sides. Of course, he would be stacking bales to the front.
Yeah.
Then when you got to the back, you'd have to do a little manipulating to get the last of the bales on at the back. But anyhow, that was, like I said, that was common practice.
Yeah.
I used to laugh as a little kid watching them. I mean, he'd have big old style football players in the prime of their life out there. And hell, he'd be throwing bales all day long, you know.
Yeah.
And he was in his 50s at that time, you know.
Yeah, my grandpa McKinley, he during the Depression, he went out to western Colorado to pick peaches, and there was a bunch of Mexican workers out there too, and boy, he could not stand them because he was a big, tall, strapping dude, and he couldn't keep up with the Mexican guys picking peaches, and it pissed him off to no end. He's like, those little bastards are way faster than I was.
Well, hey, looks like Michelle's about ready to ring the dinner bell, so I'm going to let you go here if you got enough to put together. So
no, I enjoyed the chat, John. I'll have you back on again someday, and I appreciate you taking the time. So have a good one.
All right, take care. Thank you.
You bet. We'll see you.
Bye.
I would recommend going following John on Facebook. I don't think he does anything but Facebook, but just John Odea, and he's a pretty interesting character. Doing a lot of kind of innovative stuff, and like you said, just doing a lot of shitty work to pay the bills. And but it seems like they got a pretty cool, unique operation going, and it's pretty neat to watch. He explains things in a lot different way than some other folks, and I don't know, I enjoy following him, and it seems like he might be a little tough to get along with for some people, but I don't know. Seems like a pretty all right guy. So anyway, go follow him. Thanks for tuning in, and yeah, if you'd like to watch this, listen to this ad free, head over to patreon.com/burning and you get some bonus content there as well. And yeah, have a good week and move your ass. We're burning daylight.
Your eyes up in the morning beneath the stars so bright. Pull your hat down, make sure your cinch is tight. Horses kinda snuffy, cold chill up your spine. We'll get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight. Burning daylight. Burning daylight. In the saddle till the job's done right. Just together, and you won't catch 'em all. But when you ride through the gate, make sure you sit up tall. I can see the horizon, it's looking pretty bright. Well, get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight. Burning daylight. Burning daylight. In the saddle till the job's done right.